G'day YouTube, Max right here, and today I got a really fun video for you. I wrote a book in 2013 called The Bitcoin Revolution, Ending Tyranny for Fun and Profit. And this, after I wrote it, it all kind of boiled down to what I'm about to talk to in this chart. And it really is going to separate, really help people understand the value proposition of Bitcoin versus gold. And you'll probably be familiar with the things that we have on the screen at the moment, durable, divisible, fungible, etc. But what I realized when I was creating this list, when I was comparing gold to Bitcoin, apples to apples, let's do a straight comparison on these things, because this is a very famous list. It's been around for a long time. These are the 8 characteristics of perfect money, or so we thought. It's the 8 characteristics really of why gold is better than fiat. But as I wrote this list, and I compared gold to Bitcoin in this list, and I was like, this is interesting. That gold and Bitcoin are about kind of even, at least by my measure, as I graded each gold and Bitcoin against these things. I was like, gold and Bitcoin's kind of similar, but something in my gut in 2013 told me, no, Bitcoin is special. Bitcoin does a lot more than this. Why isn't it showing up on the 8 characteristics of perfect money? And I realized it was not the list of 8 characteristics of perfect money. What I realized was it was the 8 benefits of gold over fiat. And if you take off the shackles of any limitation and just think, okay, what would I want if I was just going to start make money from scratch and I wanted to create the perfect money, and I could just had a magic wand and could do anything, then what would be the characteristics of money that I would want? And I ended up coming up with 8 more. I think it's 8 more. I'll have to double check. 8 more for a total of 16. And it's in the final 8 that we realize, oh, Bitcoin is massively superior to gold in these ways. So let's go through this now. I think it'll be a really fun exercise. It's something that you can send to people who are on the fence about Bitcoin, who don't know about Bitcoin. They're trying to think, well, hang on, what's Bitcoin? Is it something I should pay attention to or not? It's going to be a great tool for you guys to be able to share. So do me a favor, smash up that like button and subscribe to this channel for lots of cool fun videos here. We do stuff like Bitcoin technical analysis, news, and the philosophy and groundbreaking understanding of what Bitcoin is, so you can really be a knowledgeable investor, which helps you create the money. When there's doubt in your mind, you're not selling, you're rushing into the burning building, scooping up as many cheap Bitcoin as you can. That's what's helped to make me stupid rich, and I really hope that is for you. So the fundamentals are really important. Okay, let's do it. So if that sounds like fun, go ahead, let me know in the comments below that you that you agree with that. You know what? Let's do this little experiment. Let me know before we go through the list let me know where you're at. Is Bitcoin better than gold? Is gold better than Bitcoin? Is it about even? Is it by a lot? Just give yourself some kind of a mark where 0, gold is the best, 10, Bitcoin is the best, and let me know where you are. And then I'm going to ask you again at the end of the video and see if maybe you got some new learnings and that shifted somehow. Okay, let's get into it. So one of the first very important characteristics of money is that it is durable. So gold is extremely durable. It's pretty much only one way I know to destroy gold, and that is to make it radioactive. It can be dropped at the bottom of an ocean for 1,000 years and it does not rust. So gold is incredibly durable. It is a fantastic form of money for that reason. And to my knowledge, the only way to get rid of gold is to make it radioactive, blow it up with a nuclear bomb. That is the only way I know to destroy gold. So absolute, what do we give it? A. We gave it an A instead of an A+, because you can kill it with nuclear weapons. Okay. Bitcoin, how is Bitcoin's durability? Well, Bitcoin will last forever. To my knowledge, there is no way of killing Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, it's a decentralized ledger of account. And as long as there is one computer somewhere in this world or in the skies in satellites or in an underground cave, as long as that ledger exists somewhere in the universe, the Bitcoin ledger exists and can be reproduced millions of times from one single copy in the space of in days. So it is extremely resilient, and in terms of durability, Bitcoin gets an A as well. Why does Bitcoin not get an A+, Max? I don't even know. I wrote this when I was in 2012. Maybe I know more now. Okay, divisible. How is gold divisible? Listen, gold is okay divisible. One of the reasons gold is money and not something like platinum or whatever is that it can be melted down at relatively low temperatures. To melt down like platinum or palladium or something like that, it actually requires relatively new technology, like the last couple of 100 years technology, to get heat hot enough to melt down those metals. Gold, around a campfire, you can melt down gold and separate it and put it into smaller denominations. But weighing it and doing all this stuff, it's divisible, sure, to an extent, but could you buy a cup of coffee with gold? You're talking about sub a gram of gold, like you're trying to pay in gold dust. I would say, what is it? What did I give it? I give it an A. It's somewhat durable, but Bitcoin is infinitely durable. And for those of you who say, well, hang on a minute, not infinitely, Max, it's only could go down to the Satoshi level. And it says, yes, but on the Bitcoin code, that's just a simple change. Like if you wanted to, if let's say we were actually using Satoshis to buy stuff like cups of coffee or whatever, it would be one simple change of changing a number in the protocol that I don't think anybody would have resistance to, and you could get another 10 decimal places. So Bitcoin gives an A+, it is perfectly divisible. And like I said, it should be A+ for durable as well. I can't think of anything that kills Bitcoin. Okay, fungible. Now fungible means A is like B, meaning one unit is like another. So the reason we don't use art as money is because if I buy, a house with a Van Gogh, can you give me change in a Rembrandt? It's like, well, how does that work? Pieces of art are not interchangeable. Whereas gold is. A 1 ounce gold coin is a 1 ounce gold coin. And so it should be, I hope I gave it an A+. I did, A+. Gold is perfectly fungible. I also give Bitcoin an A+. Now, again, I wrote this in 2013. There is an argument to be made that maybe Bitcoin should be downgraded to an A here because Bitcoin does have its history. You could argue that Bitcoin could be tainted. It could be, oh, that Bitcoin was used in a drug transaction and now it's in your hands. Government's got to come along and put you in jail until they give it to you. It's arguable that maybe we're to downgrade Bitcoin here and only give it an A for fungibility, but it's somewhere between an A and an A+, pretty solid. Convenient. Look, gold gets a B for convenience. So yeah, I love there's a scene in the Count of Monte Cristo, one of my favorite movies, where the guy shows up with literally a carriage full of gold to buy a castle. And I was just thinking, just how ridiculous, like, just can you imagine, like, you go and buy a house and you have to show up with a carriage full of gold? Bitcoin, when used without counterparty, is quite inconvenient. It's extremely heavy. You can have, one little box, what do they call it, little 20 count container of gold coins in your pocket, and it's pulling your pants down. Like, you got to have your belt on tight. And so gold is pretty inconvenient when out used with counterparties. Now, you can have counterparties to make it a lot more convenient. Companies like goldmoney.com will allow you to send in your gold, leave it in the vault, and then if you want to buy a cup of coffee with it or a house, you can just say, okay, transfer so many ounces of gold or grams of gold from my account to his account, and it's all done online. You can do it with an app. And so with counterparties, you can make it a lot more convenient. Bitcoin gets an A+ in convenience. It is super convenient. Without any counterparties whatsoever, I can transfer any amount I want anywhere in the world at the speed of light. There is nothing else that compares, except other cryptocurrencies, there is nothing else that compares in the entire world for Bitcoin for convenience as use of money. Let's check. Acceptability. Now again, this was written in 2013. I don't think gold would have moved significantly. So look, can you find a plumber or an electrician who'd be willing to accept a gold coin? And I'll even be generous. Let's just throw silver in here to allow smaller denominations. Like, could you find a plumber or an electrician to accept your gold coins? Maybe if you called around to 50 plumbers and electricians, you might find someone who will accept it. For the sake of international trade, like companies who have been embargoed, like Venezuela, Iran, they can use gold to transact and buy their oil with gold and stuff like that. So, gold is accepted in certain places, anywhere near cash. So I give it kind of a C. Now, in 2013, I gave Bitcoin a D because you could buy, the magic of Bitcoin is you cannot use gold online. But Bitcoin you can use online, so it opens up a whole new world. And in 2013, I gave it a D. Right now, I'd say it's probably escalated to a C. If you're Iran and you want to buy oil from China, you can't use Bitcoin, but you can use gold. So there's an example of where Bitcoin is used that gold is not. But Bitcoin, I think, probably beats out gold right now. Probably it's a C, C+, B-, because it's not like I go into Starbucks and I can use it. But we are super, super close to where this is going to jump up to an A. Between Swipe, between Cash App, between Venmo, between PayPal. I mean, we are talking about, we can use this in a lot of places. There are tens of millions of merchants that will accept Bitcoin right now, and plenty of places online. So Bitcoin has surpassed gold, I would suggest, in this dimension. Probably got itself up to, let's call it a B- right now, but I think it's very, very close. We're within one cycle, within 4 years of this exploding to an A+ scenario where it's accepted everywhere. Counterfeit resistance. Look, gold is pretty good. I gave it an A-. There was a story not too long ago, a few years ago, where in China, there was a major bank which was holding tens of millions of dollars of gold in reserve, and they peeled back the gold. It was gold plated, but there was tungsten. It was tungsten filled gold bars. And so there is some instance where gold can be counterfeited. Well, that's not true. The best way and the easiest way is to melt gold down, and you can instantly tell, was there alloy in there? Was it pure gold? It immediately separates once it's melted. But to do that, you've got to destroy the coin or destroy it, which is obviously undesirable. If you combine 3 tests, I think it's a weight test, an X-ray test, and an acid test. If you do all 3 of those things, you can prove that gold is pure gold, like a coin, and there's no counterfeit, there's no tungsten inside it, anything like that. But it's pretty difficult to do that. And also, a part of this counterfeit resistance is accessibility. So look, let's just say someone made the accusation that the gold in Fort Knox, if there is any, is fake. Well, can we from the outside verify or confirm that? The answer is no, we can't. So it requires a certain accessibility to even get to the stage of being counterfeit resistance. So really, gold gets an A-, maybe even a B+, whereas Bitcoin gets an A+. It is phenomenal at being counterfeit resistant. Everybody immediately, instantly knows whether or not this is real Bitcoin or not, and we can tell from the outside, even if we're not involved in the transaction. If our government was holding it on our behalf, or a corporation, we can see from the outside that they're holding the genuine article with 100% certainty, and we don't need the accessibility to confirm that it's real, and the test that it's real is very, very simple. So it gets an A+ for counterfeit resistance. Okay, limited in quality. I've given gold an A+ here. So gold is not limited in quantity because we discover more and more all the time. And I think, but it still gets an A+. There is more gold coming on the market all the time. But it gets an A+ because what would we want our money to be? Would we want it to slowly increase with population increase, which is pretty much what gold does? Yeah, and it has this beautiful mechanism. The higher the price of gold, the more incentivized we are to go and find it, mine it. And so it's got this beautiful quality where over the thousands of years, it grows with the population supply and keeps a relatively stable unit of account. For 5,000 years, one gold coin will get you, a fine toga, leather sandals, leather belt. Right now, 5,000 years later, one gold coin will get you a fine suit, nice shoes, belt, tie, and you're off to the races being dressed up. So, for it to hold its value for 5,000 years, it holds a very, very good account. Bitcoin is actually limited in quantity, but we have the question: is this desirable? And I'm not too sure whether it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it deserves an A+ alongside with gold. Maybe gold deserves an A and Bitcoin gets the A+. I'm not sure. What is desirable? Do we want money to grow at a steady rate with population, or do you want it to be stagnant? Because I'll tell you right now, as someone with a large Bitcoin position, it's very, very hard to get up and go to work and do anything. Because I know it's going to go up in price because as the population grows, it becomes more scarce. And I know I'll never have to work again, ever, because of Bitcoin. And that's not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily good for society. Maybe it would be better if it grows along. I happen to be a pretty motivated person. I tend to get up and do things and be productive and be a good steward of money and find out how I can take what I have and make it even better and offer more value to the world. And my thing is teaching, so I love teaching. I love reaching down and helping people come up to my level. And so I do this, and I run this YouTube channel, and I run Success Council. But I know there's definitely been periods in my life where it's just like hands on heads. I'm going on holidays for a year. That's definitely happened. And so I don't know if that's necessarily the good thing. By the way, I should mention back on gold also has the issue, as we have projects like SpaceX and things coming up, all of a sudden there's theses coming about that, can we land on an asteroid and mine gold on an asteroid and bring back, 1 billion tons of gold? So there could be a fatal flaw in gold in maybe some amount of time, probably not tens, probably hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, but all maybe. Another thing is there's way more gold at the bottom of the ocean, not from like sunken treasure. I mean, it's actually at the bottom of the ocean and in the soil and the rock and whatever else. There's a lot of gold. So if we ever get the technology to mine that could totally throw off gold as a limited quantity concept as well. So, but nonetheless, A+A, gold, Bitcoin, limited in quantity, I'd say they both serve their purpose. It could be debated about which one's better. Okay, history of use of money. Clearly, gold has the pole position here. 5,000 years plus of gold use as money. It's held its value for 5,000 years. It's just doing very, very well. Remember, I wrote this in 2013 and Bitcoin got a D-. It was invented in 2009, didn't even have a value until 2011. And when I wrote this in 2013, to have a history of money, D-. I think now, 2021, it's had a value for a full decade. It's been used as money for 10 years. Maybe we can upgrade it to D. Maybe D, maybe D+. But certainly it just doesn't even hold a candle to gold as its terms of history of use of money. There is still somewhat of a speculation that maybe this is tulip mania. Some people believe that. I don't, but some people do. No one believes gold is tulip mania. That argument is taken off the table because of its 5,000 year history. It is on the table for Bitcoin. I don't buy it. I'll argue it with people, but some people do, and that's just important to note. It has to be downgraded for that. Was there something else I wanted? Yeah, I wanted to add one more point to that. 5,000 years ago, Bitcoin got used as money for the first time. All right? Did that make it a terrible money? No, it was still a fantastic money. It was a fantastic money then. So it did not have the history of the use as money as then, and it was still use of money. As technology increases, and I believe that something better than Bitcoin will come along eventually, and something better than cryptocurrency as a whole will come along better than those things eventually. But in the meantime, I acknowledge the fact that it is an incredible money, because gold, once upon a time, was a great money, and it did not have this history of use as money. Okay, so now if we just pause here and we take a look, it's pretty similar, but if you have to give it to anyone, you've got to give it to gold. Gold, we have got a D- and a D over here. Here we've got one C, a B, and everything A. Look, if we take our grade point average, it's pretty close, but slightly tilted in favor of gold. And as I said at the top of the show, it's like when I did this in 2013, I was like, something's not sitting right about this. I think Bitcoin is special. I felt it in my gut. I knew it. It was like, why do I think it's special? Because this isn't giving me the answer. So what I did was I came up with other things that if you're not held by the constraint of why is gold better than fiat, just what would you want in a perfect money? You would want some other things. And here's what I came up with. You would want anonymity. You would want low-cost storage, low transaction costs. You'd want it to be intangible. You would want no third-party risk. You'd want deniability. You would want resistance to violence, and you would want resistance to fractional reserve banking. So let's go through each of these. I'll explain them as I go, and once again, we will grade gold against Bitcoin. Anonymity. So here we give gold a B+. So anonymity why is anonymity important? Well, I think privacy is super important to freedom. If someone can be spying on you, if the governments of the world can be spying on you at all times, if other people know your business at all times, it is extremely restrictive, and it is the beginning steps of tyranny. It can force conformity, and it is a very, very unhealthy thing for a society, for our financial transactions to be known by a central government. I think it's extremely bad. So anonymity, in my opinion, is extremely valuable. You would want that. Now, there can be a downside to it, absolutely. And, we haven't had, like a Charles Lindbergh kidnapping or child kidnapping type situation for 100 years, and I think that's largely because it's much harder. If you get the money, what are you going to do with it? Like, the bills could be marked. You can't wire it to somebody. You'll definitely find them. So there is a cost to anonymity too, and I don't want to ignore that. But I think the greater good is served actually with anonymity and then dealing with those other issues. So gold gets a B+. Listen, during the Great Depression, when they outlawed private gold ownership by US citizens, there was an IRS agent at every bank waiting for people to come and open the security box and check to see if there had gold in it. And the anonymity of gold was significant. Also, largely, you can go and find a gold dealer and pay in cash, but for large quantities of gold, you're going to go through the system, and generally you're not going to have that anonymity, especially as a reserve asset for large families or wealthy families or corporations. You're going to lose that anonymity. Now, I wrote this in 2013, and I gave Bitcoin an A+ on anonymity, and I think today, with the benefit of hindsight, that was misplaced. I think Bitcoin needs to be downgraded to probably an A-, maybe an A in terms of anonymity today. The space has grown. The space of the centralized exchange with the KYC and the AML, like your Krakens, like your Binance, like your Coinbases, has really, really reduced the anonymity factor to Bitcoin. With that said, so right now today, I think it's more appropriate to give it an A-. With that said, I think we're going to see a revolution here in the next year or two to a decentralized exchange of which will allow Bitcoin to Ethereum to Tether, native token-to-token exchanges, and we are going to have anonymity brought back into the entire crypto space. More about that later because I don't want to dwell on it too much, but it's one of the very, very exciting things I'm researching. I hope to have a whole video series out about that very, very soon. I've secured an interview with Eric Voorhees on that, so please make sure you subscribe to this channel. You are going to want to watch that. I think that can completely change I think it's the biggest thing to happen to the cryptocurrency space in a long, long time, since the invention of Bitcoin. It's more important than Ethereum. It is more important than everything. It's huge, and it's coming, and you're gonna hear about it here first. So please subscribe to the channel, guys. Okay, that's anonymity. What about low storage cost? Look, gold gets an A-. In order to move gold around, you need to hire armored guards and Brinks things, and you got to put it in big secure vaults, and it's expensive to store gold. Bitcoin, it is, for intents and purposes, it is free to store gold. You can store it in lots of different ways. You can remember a passphrase. You can have it on a piece of paper written down. Or there's a backup. You can pay $100 and get a Trezor and store millions upon millions of dollars of Bitcoin. So it's low cost of storage. Bitcoin really, it's probably this gap of only being an A+ to an A- probably is doing an injustice to Bitcoin. Maybe gold should be in the B's here because Bitcoin is absolutely phenomenal in this space. Low transaction costs. So gold gets a C. And I think primary reason for that is, look, in order to mint gold and create gold, there's a cost, but I'm not even really talking about that. In order to transact in gold, what are we doing? It's heavy. It's for large transactions. Look, to pay the plumber or whatever, maybe you can give him a gold coin. But for corporations or for the internet world, gold transactions are terrible. Without using third party, they're terrible. What are you going to post a gold coin to Amazon and then they send you the goods? I mean, it would just be extremely expensive. You'd have to insure it on the way there, and it would not be very good. Bitcoin here gets an A. So for the vast majority of transactions, the cost of transacting in Bitcoin is nearly irrelevant. For really small things like for buying a cup of coffee or something, maybe not. For a transaction under $10, maybe Bitcoin fees are annoying. But for transactions in the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, trillions, Bitcoin is absolutely world-class and just incredibly low transaction costs. So it's got gold beat handily on that one. Intangible. Why would you want an intangible form of money? Why would that be a good thing? Well, most obvious reason, in an internet age, you would want something that flies around the world at the speed of light. That would be desirable. But there's another concept here, which is, what about your ability to back up Bitcoin? Like, imagine this. You're taking your gold across the seas in 1600, and if your ship sinks, it's at the bottom of the ocean and you've lost your gold, right? What if you could take a backup of the gold, and if the ship sinks, you just magically re-manifest the gold next to you and you put it on the next boat, right? That is the upside of having an intangible money. What if when you left your wallet on a park bench and you came back an hour later and it wasn't there, someone had taken it, and you could just, you know, press a button and it just re-manifested in your hand and you had your wallet back with you. That is the upside of intangible. So gold gets a big fat fail on intangibility. And in the current era, the internet era, I think it's extremely, extremely valuable. And of course, Bitcoin gets an absolute A+ in intangibility. All of those scenarios, it can do the backups. It can, again, because it's intangible, it zooms around the world at the speed of light at near no cost, and it absolutely slays gold in this dimension. No third-party risk. Now we're starting to get into the really, really good ones. These last four, I think, are the really, really important ones that you really want to pay attention to. Okay, third-party risk. Can you store gold at home or somewhere without relying on third parties? The answer is you can. In doing so, you basically make it irrelevant as money. Like I said, getting a plumber or an electrician to take your gold coin like that, almost zero. If you use a third party like goldmoney.com, then you can do those kinds of things. However, you now introduce third-party risk. Bitcoin here is phenomenal. It achieves all of the other things we've been spoken about. You can actually use it as money without getting into third-party risk. You can store your Bitcoins without involving any other third parties. You can transact, you can send, you can receive, all without any third parties. And for that, Bitcoin slays gold in that way. Deniability. Why is deniability important? Kind of links in a little bit with anonymity, but the reason deniability is important is one of the ways in which there's the two primary ways I would suggest that tyranny exists is over your physical self and over your wealth. So when the Berlin Wall came up, or Mao's China, we have a really good example of where they're just going to build up a wall, make the whole country a prison, and you cannot leave. Your physical self is there. In the months and years leading up to that, was it easy to take your wealth? And the answer is no. For your house, obviously you couldn't take it. Maybe you could take some gold with you. But deniability is very, very important at the border wall. So back then, maybe not less so. But now, where we're jumping on planes and leaving jurisdictions and we all go through metal detectors, well, good luck trying to get your gold through those metal detectors, right? To get your gold out of the country and have deniability that you're carrying gold is very, very hard. And let's say that, like they tried to do in China a few years ago, they're trying to do it in India now. A government comes along and says, listen, Bitcoin is too big a threat to our monopoly on counterfeiting the money. And so we're going to outlaw it. Well, do you have deniability with gold? Like if you get frisked and you've got gold, it's like, okay, gold's against the law, you've got gold on you, we're taking you to jail. But with cryptocurrency, you can have a phrase in your head, okay? You can have an encrypted file on a USB stick. It's like, what's that file? It's like, I don't know, I forgot the password to it. What is it? I don't know, I forgot. This was 10 years ago. you've got deniability. And what deniability means, it makes it very, very difficult. Given we have a justice system, for the most part, you're innocent until proven guilty. Just possessing Bitcoin is going to be very, very hard to prove. You have deniability, whereas you do not with gold. You either have it or you don't. And so in terms of resisting tyranny, deniability is an extremely important thing. So for gold, I give, on the dimension of deniability, gold gets an F. You cannot deny it. It's either there or it's not. It's in your possession or it's not. It's in the vault in your name or it's not. Bitcoin gets an A+. Its deniability is excellent. With the proper steps, you can completely deny having Bitcoin. Nobody can prove that you do have Bitcoin, and you can carry billions of dollars worth of wealth with you all around the world, and no one will know it is on you, or that you know it, or that you have access to it. Very, very cool tool to resist tyranny. Next, resistance to violence. Gold gets a D here. Why? I don't know. It should get an F. Gold is not resistance to violence. Listen, this is so important, guys. We have things like gold money throughout the whole corrupt fiat currency experiment. Man has been trying to create a gold-backed money where we can choose to use it. We can choose to put gold in a vault, and we can choose to pay with our coffee with grams of gold, just do it with an app and send it. The problem is, under the guise of money laundering, under the guise of paying for child porn, under the guise of terrorism, the governments of the world, anytime a competitor to their privilege on counterfeiting money comes up, anytime a competitor to their corrupt system comes up, they throw some accusations at it, they say, we've got to shut it down, and they send in men with guns to take the gold. They take the gold out of the vault, and all the people who are using that system lose. All right. The result is men with guns beat gold every time. And the reason we have to use their corrupt money and we do not use gold, even though the vast majority of people would use it if they could understand it, is that the men with guns will win. Resistance to violence is probably one of the most important things on this list, because gold in the current era has failed to resist tyranny because of this line item. It is not resistance to violence. The men with guns win. Bitcoin, not so much. Bitcoin here gets an A+. It is stellar. Again, tying to that deniability, you can have a handful of wallets at home. You can have like a 10 Bitcoin wallet, a 100 Bitcoin wallet, 1,000 Bitcoin wallet. Someone comes in, puts a gun to your head and says, hey, give me your Bitcoin. So absolutely, I'll give you, here's my whole wallet. And you can give them the 10 Bitcoin one, or the 100 Bitcoin one, or the 1,000 Bitcoin one, or whatever. You've got so much deniability. You've got so much resistance. Plus, if they just say, listen, just give me your Bitcoin. No, you can beat me, you can do whatever, but I'm not going to give it to you. No amount of guns can beat that. And no amount of guns can beat the network that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin will go on. Even if you can steal Bitcoin off a person with that gun to the head, give me your Bitcoin or I'll kill you. You can steal Bitcoin off a person, but you cannot destroy Bitcoin as a useful form of money. You can destroy gold as a useful form of money with violence, which is what they did, which is why we don't have gold to use to fight back against the endless money printing. Resistance to violence. I think it's the most important thing on this entire chart. And then finally, a resistance to fractional reserve banking. So what this comes down to is easily proven. Okay, because gold is so cumbersome, so difficult, and so annoying to hold by yourself, and in order to be in any way useful, you need to have it at a counterparty. It is extremely susceptible to fractional reserve banking. In order for the gold to be useful, you have to stick it in a vault somewhere. So now, what if the guy who owns the vault starts skimming and taking some for his? Can you prove that you and all the other depositors are underfunded in that vault? Do you have access to prove that? And the answer is no, you don't. You have to trust their word. You have to trust the word of third-party auditors. And so gold is extremely susceptible to fractional reserve banking. For that reason, gold gets a big fat F. It always gets fractionally reserve banked, and it ruins it as a currency. Eventually you get a collapse, a run on banks, etc. Bitcoin here, again, gets an A+. Because the cost of storing Bitcoin is so low, it's so easy, anybody can do it. You don't, and it's just as useful as money when you own it as when you have somebody else who is custody of it. So many more people take custody of their Bitcoin, and if you ever want it, you can just take it. Like, I remember there's all these plans to, like, beat the silver shorts by taking possession of the real silver, taking possession of your silver. The problem is not enough people did it because possessing it is a big pain in the ass. It is. The cost of shipping it to you is high. Then you got this big thing, boxes and boxes of silver floating around your room. It's a pain. It's an absolute pain. Whereas with Bitcoin, no matter how much of it you got, it still occupies the same amount, be it a little treasure or a piece of paper with a word phrase. That's all it takes to hold your Bitcoin. And as a result, people actually are far more likely to take custody. Step one. Step two, also, because I can see how much Bitcoin somebody else has. If a company wants to prove, it's easy for them to prove how much Bitcoin they're in possession of. You just say, send a transaction to yourself. And they can go, boom, send a transaction to yourself. It's like, oh, there you go. They really did just move 21,000 Bitcoins. They really do have it, no doubt about it. And we don't need to rely on third-party auditors. We don't need to rely on anybody. We can see from the outside how much they have. And now there's been so much on-chain analytics, we don't even really need to ask them to move the coins to prove they have it. We can actually see from the outside exactly how much Bitcoin they have in their wallets with pretty close approximation. And so we can tell if they're over-promising and under-delivering with how much they have on their books. So Bitcoin gets an A+ in the concept of resisting fractional reserve banking. So now that we've filled out this second chart, we can see that, look at this A+ over here on the Bitcoin side. We've got 3 Fs, we've got Ds, we've got Cs. Gold in this other standard is extremely weak compared to Bitcoin. And so let me have a look if I have any more of this. No, I don't. Gold is extremely weak to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is far superior, far superior to gold as money. And I would say the big ones here, these last 4, it can still be a useful money with no third-party risk. You can store it, have custody of it, and not rely on other people. It has deniability, incredibly important in resisting tyranny. It is resistance to violence. Throughout all of human history, the men with the guns, when there's a golden rule, he who makes the gold makes the rule. But then there's the other real golden rule with he who has the guns takes the gold. All right? And Bitcoin is the antidote to living in a world where violence wins. Incredibly important. And with the resistance to fractional reserve banking, Bitcoin is the antidote to a corrupt financial system. So on these 4, incredibly, the first list, it's imperative that they meet that standard to a certain degree. But what gives freedom to the world, what ends tyranny, are the things on this list. And that's why Bitcoin will usher in the era of a massive reduction in tyranny across the world. A massive reduction of tyranny will result as a result of Bitcoin, and a corresponding lift in the quality of life of so many more people. So that's my little bit on gold versus Bitcoin. What did you think? Let me know. Over the course of this presentation, did your opinion of Bitcoin versus gold, did you move towards the idea that Bitcoin is more superior than gold, or did you move towards the end of the spectrum where you said gold is more superior than Bitcoin? Let me know. I should comment. Peter Schiff saw this video, a somewhat similar video. He saw me go through these chart. I'm doing this on May 3rd, 2021. But he did this, and he said, fantastic presentation, but you've missed a point. Gold has value, Bitcoin doesn't. And so Bitcoin fails a critically important test of meeting the standard of being money. And we had some little back and forths, but here's where it ultimately came down to. I wanted to cover this concept right here in this video. Question is, how does gold satisfy the criteria? He's saying that gold has some value. We want to use gold for some reasons, and therefore it has value. And let's look at that a little bit. So There's three ways in which gold has money. About 3% of gold is used in industry. Just 3% is used in industry to do things like do electrical shielding. I think it's used on the spacecraft in some places. Some high-end audio cables behind your stereo system has some gold-plated shielding around its cables. And so it's about 3% of the gold supply is used for industry. I think about 30% of the gold supply is used for jewelry, all right? And then the remaining 50% plus is used as money. Okay, let's look at that. Let's look at the jewelry one. The question is, why is jewelry so desirable as, why is gold so desirable as jewelry? Is it because it's pretty? It's because it's got a good color? Is it because it's easy to work with? Listen, this one's a little bit debatable, but I suggest it's none of those things. The reason gold is used as jewelry is because it's a way to display your wealth. It's a way to peacock. It's the same reason that, you know, the peacock birds have these big, beautiful feathers. It's displaying their wealth, not their wealth in the case of the peacock, but it's displaying their sexual attractiveness to the other birds by showing their genetic superiority. Well, we have been doing this in the human race for eons. Why do, you know, the rich, what are they called? Plantation owners used to wear all white. The ladies wore all white. It was to demonstrate that they're not going to get dirty picking the cotton and working in the field, which is what 99% of the population was doing. They were out in the farms farming. The moment you got off of the farms and you had enough wealth to not be in there, you started wearing white to display that you were not going to get dirty anymore. We do this, you know, and from tribal days. Why do they wear these big bones from animals they've slaughtered and caught? It's to display their physical strength, their ability to provide for the family, and with food, etc. All of these things throughout all of history. We are a bling society. If the blings were bones, so be it. But we're always displaying our wealth for a whole bunch of reasons. There's good reasons, but the most obvious one is for mating. The wealthier the guy is, the more attractive woman he's going to have as a general rule. And she wants her part of that. Say, I'm bringing hotness to this relationship. She's a status symbol for him for many ways, whether we like to admit it or not, it is the case. And so she's that status symbol, so now she wants to look as valuable and as best as she can. And again, it just reflects well on him. So this has been the nature of our world forever. And a lot of people think gold is money because it's jewelry. Because remember, even the industrial uses of gold, it's only relatively recent in the electrical age. So, you know, go back 500 years, gold is now only money or jewelry. And people think, well, it was jewelry, people wanted it because it was pretty, and because it had use and it had all those other desirable qualities, then they started using it as money. And I call bullshit on that. That's not how it went at all. It was perfect money. People started using it as money, and then because it represented money, now you could display your wealth. You could peacock. You could attract a better mate because you were displaying your wealth. Gold is jewelry because it was money. It is not money because it is jewelry, in my opinion. Let's take a look. So when Peter Schiff has this conversation, what's very obvious to me is he uses absolutes. Gold has intrinsic value because people use it, okay? And Bitcoin has zero intrinsic value, doesn't do anything, okay? And he's this is way more gray than he's suggesting. The current gold supply, if you subscribe to my thesis, which is the only reason it's jewelry, is because it's money, then the current gold supply, 3% of it is used for industry. If you do not subscribe to my idea and you think gold is money because it's jewelry, then now you get about 40% of the existing supply of gold is used for something that's desirable as jewelry or industry, and then 60% of it is used as money. Because it's so good at money, its use as jewelry and industry shrinks significantly as a percentage because so many people want to use gold as money. Okay, let's look at the world of Bitcoin. We've just gone through the analysis. We know the history of the rise of Bitcoin in terms of making people wealthy, in terms of price appreciation compared to gold. Bitcoin versus gold, since its invention, Bitcoin slays gold by orders of magnitude, by like 8, 9, 10 orders of magnitude. So in that world, so can you use Bitcoin for something other than money? The answer is yes. It gets used as a to timestamp things. So Satoshi in his very first in the very first transaction, he put a link to a newspaper article in the New York Times talking about money printing in 2009. And that was used to timestamp something. There are people who have put their wedding contracts or wedding certificates in the blockchain, in the Bitcoin blockchain, to mark that as history. And actually, Bitcoin gets used for a whole bunch of other stuff. And very, very soon, it's about to be the whole. It's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be. Well, right now, it is the reserve currency of the entire cryptocurrency marketplace. But I think DeFi is going to be introduced to Bitcoin in a very serious way in the next year or two, and it can do all kinds of banking, lending, borrowing without any kind of counterparties. So Bitcoin can do all kinds of things, right? But let's eliminate all of the financial ones and just talk about boring ones like putting a wedding certificate on the blockchain or whatever. It has some use. What is that? It's a fraction of a percent. I agree. It's less than the 3% of industry of gold, but it can get used for things, right? But then if you look at this chart, you understand that when it is such perfect money, well, in the case of gold, 60% of all gold usage is used as money, and its industrial uses and others fall down to a relatively small amount. So you say gold has intrinsic value, is that people used it for, a few people use it for some things, right? But most people use it for money. And that you would expect that the amount of people who use it for money would be in proportion to how good it is at being money. So if you have this thing called Bitcoin that is so much superior to gold as money, then although it does other things, and you can use it as a timestamp thing, you can use it to just record something in an irrefutable ledger that cannot be changed, cannot be hacked. It serves some purpose in there. So it has some intrinsic value. If you want to do that, you need some Bitcoin. But because it's such good money, the fact that it does other things, no one cares, because we all want to use it as money. 60% of the people who have gold use it as money. 99% of the people who have Bitcoin use it as money. Is that because it doesn't have any intrinsic value, or because it's so freaking good at being money? And so I don't think the black and white argument of Peter Schiff saying gold has intrinsic value, Bitcoin does not, is valid. I think gold is it's got a small, trivial use in our industry. Bitcoin is a trivial use as a timestamp ledger system, and some other things. I'm selling Bitcoin short. It does do some other things, by the way, but it's not relevant to the argument. I don't think it's not important. They both have trivial uses in the world as for industry. Trivial. They're mainly used for money. And because Bitcoin is so much better money, we would expect the vast, vast, vast majority of Bitcoin, available supply of Bitcoin, to be used as money, which is what we see. And I think that kind of defeats the argument that the black and white argument, Bitcoin doesn't have intrinsic value, gold does have intrinsic value, is false. There's lots of gray area here, and gold is not that far superior in terms of Bitcoin in its intrinsic value at all. All it needs to do is meet some minimum standard. And what's really important is, once you accept that gray concept, okay, so what is the right answer, Peter? Is like, if gold, let's say gold goes up to 80% usage as money, and now there's only 20% used as jewelry and industry. Does that mean now that Bitcoin, what's the measure? Is that now gold is not good money because it hasn't met some criteria? So it's not a black and white, it's how much of it is used. And Bitcoin meets some criteria of usability. There's some things you can do with it outside of the world of money. But because it is so good at money, so fantastic at money, no one cares about the other things. We only care about, like the vast majority of people don't care that gold can be used in cables in your stereo system. The vast majority of people don't care that gold can be used on the space shuttle, right? The vast majority of people don't care that Bitcoin can be used to timestamp things, because it is so much better to be used as money. All right, guys, I think that kind of winds it all up and defeats the main argument I heard from Peter Schiff when he criticized this kind of video that I made. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think Bitcoin is here to stay? Is it a superior form of money? Does it have intrinsic value? Does it need to have intrinsic value? Or is this a whole gray argument that's kind of a non-relevant thing? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, share this with as many friends as you can. help them get into the Bitcoin space, because believe me, in the next 5 years, I'm very confident Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million, and I'm on a mission to save as much of the middle class as possible by making videos like this so that you can share them with other people. All right, guys. And by the way, there's another video I did just a few days ago. I will link it just above here. It is about the legacy of Satoshi Nakamoto. Why did he choose to be anonymous and walk away from billions of dollars in Bitcoin? And in answering that, I really help people understand the value of Bitcoin in the macroeconomic landscape. Go ahead and check that video out up there, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.